This episode is brought to you by Indie Film Hustle TV, the world's first streaming service dedicated to filmmakers, screenwriters, and content creators. Learn more at indiefilmhustle.tv. I'd like to welcome to the show Alrik Bursell, man. Thank you so much for being on the show, brother.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, man.
We finally did it. I've been a guest on your show at this point twice.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's we have two of the bigger podcasts in the filmmaking space and the indie filmmaking space. Well, sir, well, you're prolific. If it's not good, at least it's prolific, sir. As same here.
Right.
If it's not good, at least we just keep doing it.
We've been doing it for a while. We've been doing it for a minute.
No one's stopping us, so it doesn't mean it's particularly good, but we just keep doing it.
I got a few reviews, get a few emails from people here and there. It keeps me going.
Exactly.
Pretty much can't stop the podcast until my feature's released, though, because that was like the beginning for us, was like chronicling the making of our feature films. Mm-hmm. And my ex co-host Timothy Plain, bless his heart, stopped filmmaking and didn't ever make it to his feature, or at least not yet. Maybe he will later in life, but I'm still going. And
so he jumped. He jumped the filmmaking ship. He's just like, I'm out.
I'm out.
I'm out. Well, I've said many times, once you have a case of the filmmaking, you can't really get rid of it. You have it for life. It will flare up every once in a while. You can push it down as much as you like and keep it at bay, but at one point or another, that's going to flare up and you're going to have to filmmake.
I think so. I think that's going to happen. So one of the things when he quit the show, like we talked every week for like 4 years, right? And we said, well, if you're going to quit, we have to stay friends. So we decided every month we're going to meet for lunch or dinner or something. Yeah. And we've been pretty good. So like I see him and, I ask him every time, you want to come back? You want to make a movie? He always says, no, I have no interest. He's learning Japanese now, he's reading books,
Listen, I could tell you from somebody who jumped out of the business, I always had a foot in it, but for someone who left the business to go sell olive oil and balsamic vinegar for 3 years and own a gourmet shop because I was so disgusted with the distributors I was dealing with in post-production. I understand it, but man, I was making videos for my shop. I was, You're
still doing it.
It's always part of you. It is like that disease that cannot go away ever.
Yeah. That's how I feel. Like I think I'm gonna be, 90 making movies. Whether someone's paying me to do it or not. Like I will always have a project I'm working on, just because it's like it just feeds my soul, And I love doing it, and I love the challenge. I love the whole experience. What comes out on the other end, for better or for worse. It's right. Just love it, dude.
And then, and so for everybody who doesn't know the name of your podcast, what is the name of the podcast, sir?
It is called Making Movies is Hard, with 3 exclamation points, all caps on hard.
And a crying baby is part.
And a crying baby's our logo. We're actually rebranding soon, because I actually have a new co-host, Liz Manischel, who's been on your show a few times.
Yes.
Wonderful filmmaker, wonderful person, kind of a thought leader, I'd like to say, in independent filmmaking, to some degree. We want to change the logo, because it's got to represent her as well as me, because it's a new show now. It's like we've got a new person,
right.
I think it still says Timothy's name on the website. It's like he should still be on the website, but I think when it says Timothy and Alrik present Making Movies is Hard, no. It's got to be Liz Manischel and Alrik Bursell present Making Movies is Hard. So we're working on that. It's going to be different, but it's still going to incorporate a frustrated child of some kind.
Obviously,
maybe not a crying baby.
We all are frustrated children in this film industry, without question.
I feel like most people can relate to that.
Now, one thing that I found real interesting is when I was on your show for the first time, I remember you telling me the story how Timothy was so pissed off at me because I said I had the #1 filmmaking podcast on iTunes.
Right.
I was just ranked the number, and you were saying like, who told him that? How can he say things like this? Who gave him the power?
We were doing some of our own like searching and testing, and then there were some weeks where we would be #1, some weeks where you would be #1, and depending on the wording, if you say movie making, we would be #1. If you said filmmaking, you'd be #1, and then like it would go up and down and change. And so Timothy was like tracking the numbers for a while and be like, that's just a false claim, and I was like, yeah, I mean, it's like advertising. It's like good marketing, like we could call ourselves the #1 indie filmmaking podcast if we wanted to, or we could call us the #1 movie making podcast. Like that's a valid claim, but that was just never our style to go that way. And
that's my style, sir. That is my style, obviously.
But obviously, I was doing some research. When I'm doing my movie, The Alternate, doing my crowdfunding campaign, I was researching other filmmaking podcasts. And whenever I type in filmmaking podcasts, no matter what the site, where I find it, your podcast is always on the list. And not always #1, mind you, depending on who's writing the list. Like sometimes they'll put their own #1, or they'll put, Film Riot or the IndieWire podcast or whatever will be #1. But you are always like in the top 5. And our podcast, and even our friends that Just Shoot It podcast, were often never even on the list, not even mentioned. So I think you have earned that title, my friend.
I appreciate it,
because you're out there in a way that I think a lot of filmmaking podcasts aren't. Like everybody knows indie filmmaking hustle.
But and the boys over at Just Shoot It, I was on their show as well, and they're awesome guys, man. They have a great podcast. What's really funny, because I've been doing this. I've only been doing this for 4 years and change. So a lot of people think I've been here for a decade. I haven't.
You started around when we started. Roughly.
Right, in 2015. July of 2015 is when I launched.
Yeah. We were in June 2015, I believe.
So there you go. So I haven't been around that long, and when we started, there wasn't a lot of filmmaking podcasts out there. There were a handful. A lot of those aren't around anymore. They either have quit the business or just decided not, because this is a grind, man. I mean, this is a grind.
Well, that's why we started, because I was looking for a director focused podcast, and it didn't exist. Like Just Shoot It hadn't started yet. They started right around the same time that we did. You hadn't started yet. There was like a lot of screenwriting podcasts, a lot of video camera heavy podcasts, but anything that was director focused had either finished or I couldn't find. And so that was sort of why I decided to start it, was because I kind of wanted to create the indie filmmaking director based script notes, basically, which is like also what the Just Shoot It guys say, is they wanted to be the script notes for directors, and they've done a better job than me, I have to say. I mean, partly because they're based in Los Angeles and, they have a lot of great guests, but I'm more like, I think we fit like the really small indie micro budget niche, kind of like you do, like speaking to filmmakers who maybe have zero experience and are just figuring it out just the way that we're figuring it out,
Right, and that's always been my goal, is to kind of walk the walk and talk the talk, and just like, hey, if I fail, I fail, guys, and I'm going to tell you why I failed, and if I make it, I make it, and this is how I did it, and so on. So there's a need for more shows like what we do out there, and there's much more information now than there was when we started, for sure.
Yeah, and a lot more shows.
Oh God, there's a ton of shows now. There's a ton of filmmaking shows that pop. Like before, there was like 10, 12. Now it's like that list on iTunes just keeps going and going and going.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
It gets out of hand, but like I always tell people, everyone's like, first of all, I don't consider anybody competition. There is no competition.
Oh, right. We're all just at different perspectives,
different tastes, different flavors, different everything. It's just, I can't compete with you. You can't compete with me. It's just a completely different way of doing about it. So people sometimes, maybe like Timothy was, but get really caught up in this whole.
I'm throwing him under the bus.
Don't throw. I'm not
trying to throw him under the bus.
Don't throw him under the bus. Don't throw him under this. He's good people. He's a great
guy.
No, but some people get caught up in these whole like numbers and like who's first, and like I could care less. I mean, there's podcasts out there that get millions of views, or millions of downloads a week.
Right.
I'm not that guy. So it's okay. It's okay.
Well, not yet. One day.
Well, we'll
the way
see.
that you're going. I see you right up to the top, my friend.
I appreciate that, sir. But you're already on the show, sir. There is no need for this. So.
Just being honest. Just being honest. Honest opinions.
And then we actually got to meet in person really quickly at the
Very briefly.
At the Brave Maker Film Festival up in the Bay Area, where I saw you and you were on the panel, and I think we were on the same panel, right? You asked questions.
You came on. I got to ask you one question, you
right.
know, and you gave me an answer that I was like, I want to dive deeper into this, but then Tony, bless his heart, was like, you gotta keep it rolling. We gotta keep it rolling. And like, I was like, and then he ushered you away, and I was like, oh man, you know.
And I didn't see you at the party that night. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah, I know.
So hopefully you'll be at Brave Maker again next year.
Yeah,
I'll be there.
I hope so. If Tony has me back, I'd love to be there.
Yeah, it's a great festival. It's a fantastic festival.
And I have a short film that I just finished in May that we should send to Brave Maker. So maybe I'll be there as a filmmaker. That would be really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's really I've seen your work, man, and you do some really cool stuff, man. You do some
Thank
really
you.
good stuff. Like, you know, as I'm sure as you as well as I do, we see just hundreds of films all the time. People sending us stuff all the time, and your production value is tight. You've got you've got some real craft in the way you make your images and the way you tell your story. So that's a rarity.
Oh, thank you. Thanks,
in this space. No, being serious, man, because again, when I look at stuff, I can tell right away if like, okay, 3-point lighting, guys. You know?
Well, I feel like the production value in general, like there's a lot of great production value out there. Like people have figured it out, you know, like the equipment's pretty inexpensive. There's a lot of people doing it. You know, if you're in the right market, you can get a crew together, you can make a good looking short film. But I think the thing that I'm always looking for is like the story and the takes, you know, and like how people are approaching like maybe what could be a familiar, concept or idea, because everything's been done. It's just like your execution is what separates you from anything that's come before you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what really takes me away is like seeing the way people execute and deliver upon their premise and what they're promising the audience, you know? And there is a lot of great filmmaking happening, especially in the short space. I mean, there's so many good shorts out there right now. And it's kind of, that's why film festivals are so tough, because it's really hard to break through when there's so much good content being made by so many different people from all over the place. It's like, you know, I can't get upset when a film doesn't get into a film festival, you know, or a film of mine, because it's like the competition is so steep, man. It's so tough.
It is. It's easier, like I've said before, it's easier than ever to make a film. It's harder than ever to get it seen.
Right.
Because it's just too much. There's too much competition for eyeballs as a general statement, let alone if you go down the film festival route. And there's so many politics and things that have to happen. And just to, you know, is it, what kind of genre is it? Does it have, I mean, if you have a star, I still never forget this, and it still pisses me off to this day. I was at Sundance, and I'm at the I'm watching a short film block, and all of a sudden I see Sam Rockwell and what's his name? The Mac guy, the kid that was the Mac. He was
Justin Long.
Justin Long. So both of them are playing
the
Mac guy. I forgot Justin Long, right? That's how old I am. The Mac guy. He hasn't been a Mac guy in freaking like a decade, but I remember him as the Mac guy. So there was a short with both of them playing Batman and Robin. And Batman and Batman, but like horrible Batman and Robin. Like it's like just really bad Batman and Robin, like horrible outfits and everything. Production value is atrocious, and it's about a Batman kind of muscling in on Robin's date, and he's like, "Hey, I know you're Robin, but I'm Batman." You know, like that kind of shtick, right?
Right.
And I'm sitting there watching this. I'm like, if it wasn't for Sam Rockwell and Justin Long, this would have never in a million years gotten programmed. And it just pisses me off so much that Sundance, in so many ways, and I know Liz is a former employee of the Great Giant, but I find it that it's really upsetting that not only Sundance, but a lot of these film festivals, they're star whores. They just want, because at the end of the day, they want to put asses in seats, man, and that's what if you're going to see a short film with nobody in it, or hey, do you want to see that movie with Sam Rockwell playing Batman?
Right.
What are you going to watch? So it kind of, what's your thoughts on it? I mean, because I know you've been to a few festivals.
It's tough, man. I mean, especially when you're at a festival with a film that you've made with your hard-earned money, you've self-funded, you've gotten the best actors you could possibly get in the movie, either local or getting them from Los Angeles. And then you see like a movie with a movie star in it, and like maybe they directed it and they started it, or they got their A-list friends to star in it, and it really does make you wonder. It's like, well, how can I like, it's hard to compete with that, but on the other hand, it's like, if I had those resources, I would use them. If I had friends who were movie stars, I'd put them in my movie. So I can't really get mad at them because of it. It just makes it tough to compete. And you just hope that people will look at your movie and see the story and see the value and see the connection, or hopefully have a connection to it personally, and like let that overrule the fact that I don't have Gwyneth Paltrow as my star or whatever, or
Brad Pitt or Sam Rockwell.
Brad Pitt, right? Exactly, right. But I don't know. I think it's something that, as an independent filmmaker, that you can't ignore, though. Like, I'm going into making my first feature, and it's like I get a lot of advice from people saying, just go with the best actor that you can find. Don't worry about if they're a name or anything. Like, just put the best person in the movie who's going to really dedicate themselves to the role and really bring their own personality into it, and really be in the trenches with you and really give a shit, right? Like, that's like a really good way to go. And then I'm like, okay, yeah, I know. I got this actor I really love. I'm going to put them in the movie. And then I go to my producer, and then he's like, well, like, let's see if we get somebody that we've heard of.
What's the budget though? So like I agree with that for a certain budget range. Like, if you've got a $500,000 movie, dude, don't do that.
We're way under that, but we're above the micro. So like, we're definitely, going to be paying for union actors one way or another. It might be the ultra low budget scale, but we're going to be paying for that. But you look at Liz Manashell's films, and she's gotten some really like well-known actors in her movies.
Absolutely.
And she's like really passionate about not paying over scale for actors. And, it makes me think like, gosh, I should be doing that. Like, if she's got, the guy from, Bobby Moynihan in one of her features, and this guy's like on TV on SNL, and like she got him for ultra low budget scale, SAG scale. It's like, man, like, why am I not getting somebody like that in my movie? Like Lauren Lapkus, like she's got Lauren Lapkus in one of her films. Like, why should
I'm sure it did help that she worked at Sundance. I gotta say that. Has to have some sort of. I mean, look, you have. You have resources at your disposal. You have an audience. You have a podcast. Right. I have resources at my disposal. Her being part of the Sundance Institute does not hurt. When you call up, like when she originally reached out to me, she's like, "Hi, this is Liz from Sundance." That's exactly the way. That's exactly.
She's using it.
I would use it in 1,000. Yeah, of course. If I would tattoo it on my forehead. If I was, I would have absolutely lead with that. Right. So that is something that helped. Like, I live in LA. So when I made my first feature, my star, Jill Michelle Milian, she called all of her friends, who all were these insane actors and improv actors, and they all came out at SAG minimum to come out and do the job. So I didn't have access to those actors, but she did, and together we were able to put together this film. So it's really interesting. And again, I agree with you 100% that if you should always try to find the best actor. But there has to be a fiscal responsibility to the budget, because if you don't put known faces in, the higher that budget goes, the more you have to hedge your bets with some sort of talent. If you can get that talent at scale, God bless. But if you can't, it might make sense to hire somebody for a day and put them on the poster. And again, it depends on the story, depends on the genre, it depends on, like, an indie drama, not so much. But an action film, a horror film,
sci-fi.
Look, would it hurt to have Mark Hamill in your sci-fi film? Probably not.
No. But, it's interesting because, like, I tell that story to my producer about getting the actors at ultra low budget SAG scale, and he says, like, no way. Like, he won't even make these offers to people at that rate. Like, he wants to offer at least something, is what he said. And I think he won't mind me being this transparent, but it's like, he basically won't let me offer ultra low budget SAG to the actors that I want. Like he says, we have to give them something above it in order for them to at least take us seriously. You know?
Well, what will happen in this town? I'll tell you exactly what will happen. Again, Liz was a very specific situation.
Yeah, she's special. She's an outlier.
She is an outlier, and because she had the name of Sundance behind her, man, I'm telling you, that opened up a lot of doors. It really did. I'm not saying that's the only reason, but that definitely adds it helps. No, there's just no doubt about it. So if you make offers, let's say you make 5 offers to 5 different actors, and they're like, hey, we love you, we really want to do it, scale. Really quickly around town, your project will be associated with these guys have no money and they're not serious and blah, 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 blah. You know, it would hurt you if you're going after, these kind of actors and offering them scale,
who are on TV or, you know, in movies, supporting or not, whatever.
And this is also, and this is your first feature, or is this, so it's your first feature as well.
And that's another thing that Liz had going for her second movie, where she got even better stars than her first movie. She already had a movie that had recognizable faces in it to show that, like, look, people trust me. Like, I can make a good movie, you know? And it got distribution with a reputable distributor. So I feel like those things altogether, like, play in her favor. Like me with 5 short films, no Sundance, laurels, no South by Southwest laurels, just like, you know, some good festivals, but nothing like, you know, blowing me out of the water, like, you know, first top tier. I think it's kind of a harder bet. For sure.
Yeah, it is. So then you have to play the game a little bit differently. And it's a sci-fi film. So sci-fi films in general, there's a higher risk of it not going well because the visual effects are so heavy in this. So they're like, there's just a lot of things, landmines that have to be. Trust me.
I feel like, you know, with the teaser trailer that I made a teaser trailer for my film that we're going to release really soon. That
I saw your crowdfunding. I saw your crowdfunding video. It looked great.
So that's just part of it. So like that's like about 30 seconds of the teaser trailer in the beginning. We have a 2-minute teaser trailer that we're going to release when we hit 30% of our goal, which probably would have happened by now when you're listening to this. But that's what's gotten people involved in the film. You know, like that's how I've gotten a lot of my investors. That's how I've gotten a lot of my crew. That's how I've gotten a lot of people who are willing to do me favors and support me and actually look at the movie. It's all because of that teaser trailer. And I've been sharing that privately for about a year now, you know, and that's sort of like gotten the ball rolling. And I was sort of really resistant to making a teaser trailer because I was like, no, I've made 5 short films. Like I've got all this proof. Like, look at this stuff. Like, you know, you believe me, but no. They want to see the teaser trailer for the project you are pitching, and it has to be of a high quality. And so, you know, that was another piece of advice I got from my producer, Jeff. And, you know, we went out and did it for like no money, and, you know, it worked out.
Yeah, and I mean, the reason why I did my first movie on a micro budget is because I got tired of playing the game of chasing the money. I mean, I wasted a decade alone on one project alone, and I did a short film, award-winning short film I did a Japanese anime prequel. I did books, I did artwork, I had business proposals, I had a talent attached, and I just walked around and I did all these meetings again and again. I did everything the way everybody told me I should do it. And, you know, when I finally got let go from that last big project I was attached to again, or it just fell through, the project just fell through in general, I just said, I can't do this anymore. So I said, screw it. I'm going to take $5,000 and go make my movie. And then I crowdfunded and everything. But I was just like, I'm over it. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And it's a different hustle, man. It's a different hustle. I mean,
this has been 5 years to the point of getting this movie ready to be shot in December, you know? And
God bless, man. God bless.
It's just it's a tough road. And I mean, I feel like I'm definitely thinking about my second feature already just in my mind and like how I want to approach it. And it's definitely lower budget for sure, you know, just because like a lot of people that I've had on my podcast before and the people I've talked to, they always say like, yeah, first feature, micro budget, second feature, I'm going to do for $1 million, third feature, 20 million. It's like, I feel like that mindset It's just not going to work, man. Like, unless you have an outlier, unless you have a hit like a Fruitvale Station or some kind of amazing like first feature like Napoleon Dynamite that just blows people out of the water, like you're probably going to have to do the same method you did on your first feature for your second feature and probably for your third feature. You know,
I like Joe Swansberg's approach.
Oh yeah,
I like and Mark Duplass's, but I mean, but the Swansberg approach was he made literally 35 films, and most of them were just $2,000, $3,000, and he just kept pumping them out and he just kept doing it. And he was an outlier in the sense that South by Southwest took a liking to him. And then now every single one of his movies was starting to be put up on the festival, and then they created Mumblecore and that whole movement. And he was at the
created a whole genre.
So
him and the Duplass brothers, you know, like they're like the beginners of that whole thing.
Yeah, there's a handful of those filmmakers around that time that were doing that, and you know what, man, I don't think there's a lot of that kind of filmmaking done in that same way anymore because the technology's changed, so it shouldn't be shot on a VHS or or a mini DV, camcorder. It shouldn't be doing that.
But that spirit's alive. Like a lot of people are making films that way, like with DSLRs or these really inexpensive, like high quality cameras, like the Sony A7 series cameras.
Blackmagic,
Blackmagic. I mean, they're it's amazing what you can get for no money. And I mean, even with an iPhone, like I shot a short film on an iPhone and it looked pretty freaking good. Like, better than the stuff I shot, like, when I was first started, like on a Sony, PD-150 or whatever, it's like, it's crazy.
The advice I always give filmmakers is, is to keep working and keep creating product and keep doing things because even if I'm not going to be taken seriously as a filmmaker or I'm not going to be getting any notice as a filmmaker, at least I could be prolific. And it's at the end of the day, when you turn around and you go, oh man, I've got 20 features under my belt that I've been able to sell and make some money with and build a career off of it. And I'm like, all of a sudden, then someone shows up, dude, how much do you want for your next movie? I'm like, oh, I don't know, 100 grand. And they're like, great, 100 grand, here you go. And that's, and by the way, Swanberg had a real tough time doing Drinking Buddies because I heard about that. That was a $350,000 movie, which was without a script because he doesn't work with scripts. He uses scriptments with big stars. And people were like, what? I need a script. And like, dude, the guy's made 30, his agent's like, guy's made 30 movies. He obviously knows what he's doing. Can you please
just trust him?
Just trust him. And they did. And that movie did a gangbusters. It did a lot of money. It was and now he's doing Netflix shows and movies and
all kinds of stuff.
He's doing all right. He's all right.
He went into a lot of debt, though, I heard, and, made a lot of sacrifices in his life to get that done. And I wonder sometimes, like, is that what we need to do as filmmakers to get our films made? Do we have to make these humongous sacrifices? Like, or is there a way that we can just make our films and, like, have a decent life and, just, provide for ourselves and, keep going? And I think there is. I think it's like you figure out how to make money and then you make your films. And they become separate things, you don't necessarily have to expect that short film to like get a return on its investment because you have your main, job to support that. And I think there's nothing wrong with doing it that way.
No, I did that for years. Most of my career was running post-production and then doing directing gigs on the side, commercials, music videos, series and other things, while I was chasing that directing the feature dream. So I would do shorts and other things, but my main gig was post-production. So I owned a post-production facility where I would just do post-production. And my movies didn't have to make money. But I think in today's world, there is a potential to be able to make money. And even if you start at the beginning, like you asked the question, do we need to go into big debt? I don't think you do. I think in the world today, if you've built up enough tools in that toolbox, like you or I have, we can go and make a movie for a very low budget nowadays. And everybody will get paid something and we can make money with it. And we can generate revenue, not only from the movie, but other ancillary revenues like we talked about in my in our interview last time, that whole entrepreneurial method. But let's say but if you make a $5,000 feature and then you make $6,000 with it, well, that's a plus. Now you make another $5,000. Now you make another $5,000 feature, and maybe you make $10,000 with that one. But now you're still making money off that first one, and you're still making money on the second one, and then you start building slowly.
It's like multiple channels,
But the problem is that, and I don't know if you agree with this or not, but most filmmakers don't want to do that work. They don't want to do the long-term play. They want that big lottery ticket. They want that big movie that just blows them out of the water and people could just shower them with money and opportunities.
Everybody wants that. Who doesn't want that?
Who doesn't want? Look, I always say publicly, I'll take the Marvel call. If Marvel calls, I will take the meeting. So Kevin, if you're listening, I will take the meeting. But I will take the Duplass brothers rejected that meeting, but I will take.
But you will take it gladly.
I will take it. I'm not sure I will make the movie. We'll see what the project is. But I wish
you got
I had these
artistic integrity.
No. We just have to see what this problem. I hope I have these problems. I hope I could call you up. Alrik, I can't. They're asking me to do Avengers 6 or Guardians of the Galaxy 7. I don't know what to do. Is it gonna like?
Which one's better? What's right for me? What speaks to my soul?
Should I do Moon Knight the movie? I don't know.
Right. And then, they got this Kirby idea from Capcom. They want to do Kirby the feature. I don't know about Kirby. What's going? I got all these options here,
Yeah, so they're gonna do Marvel versus Capcom the movie. Could you imagine?
Right. Oh my gosh. One day. We're headed in that direction. If things stay the same, that's where we're going.
I think we should. But I mean, I lost my complete train of thought after the Marvel comments. So where were we? I forgot everything I was saying.
We're just talking about how, like, if you make a $5,000 movie, you're getting a return on that $5,000 and just doing them over and over. And I feel like for the right films and the right filmmaker, that's a great model, And I think that I have ideas that could fit that, and I would be perfectly happy making a $5,000 feature or a $10,000 feature if the story supported that method,
Well, so perfect example, one of the biggest blockbuster directors in today's world is Chris Nolan. Right. And Chris Nolan did that exact thing. He was doing short experimental films. Then he did The Following, and then off the Following, which was rejected 2 times from Slamdance. Forget Sundance. Slamdance rejected him.
Wow.
And then he rejected him the first year. He resubmitted the second year, the same film, and for whatever reason got into Slamdance.
Wow. Did he re-edit it, or was it the same exact cut?
I don't know. I don't know the details of it, but I know that the second year he got in, when nobody else would see him. But he understood that he couldn't make Inception up front.
Right.
It took him time to build, and then from there he did Memento, which Memento was a big leap from The Following.
Huge.
But it was still, I think, a $5 or $6 million movie. It wasn't a monster movie.
No. But it had a star in it, It
had a few
Guy
stars.
Pearce,
Guy Pearce and Carrie Ann Moss, and it also had
Carrie Ann Moss.
What's his name from Joey Pants?
Joe Pantalonio, whatever his name is.
Yeah, exactly. So it had 3 really strong three actors. But then from there, he got Insomnia, and then that little Batman thing he did.
The whole Batman thing, that
whole thing, that kind of. Yeah. But it took him a minute to get there. It did. It wasn't. And that's where filmmakers want to start making Inception, but they don't understand that they can't. It's kind of like walking into a gym for the first time and I'm going to bench 700 pounds. Like you're not ready.
We're not ready. Yeah,
you're not ready.
Right. I had that same experience because my first short film, Strange Thing, was all about this monster and had this ooze creature that we did. And then I immediately had the feature idea for that I was writing. And as I was writing this movie, I realized like, fuck, this is a $10 million movie. Like, I've got all these special effects, fight scenes, this ooze monster's in 90% of the movie. It's like, no, I can't make this movie. And so I had to shelve it, put it aside. Like, I had concept art made. I was ready to go. Mm-hmm. And then I wrote the alternate, and that became the film that I'm going to make first, because that I can do on a low budget, very few locations, very few actors, very few special effects, although there are still special effects. But it's nothing like the ooze creature that I was, had designed for this first feature, this other idea.
Right.
And so that's my Inception. 3 movies down the line, 4 movies down the line, that's what I'm going to be pitching to people and be like, hey, I got this thing, been working on forever. Let's make this awesome movie, like this attack the block style film.
Yeah, and that's great. But you're already thinking about the long game. You're thinking 5, 6, 7 steps ahead. Where I find that most filmmakers don't even think one step ahead. They're just like, this is the move. Like, I mean, how many times have you heard this story? They make a move. Someone gives them $500,000. Someone gives some first-time filmmaker $500,000. You know them, I know them. They've never made a movie. And let's say for whatever magical reason, they've actually get a decent movie made. They hired some good DPs. They hired some good talent. They had a good support team. They made a decent movie. Now they, at the end of the post-production process, their only distribution plan is to submit to Sundance. That is their distribution. Right? Am I wrong? And then all of a sudden, then they're like, oh my God, where am I going to make my money? How can I sell this? Oh my, they start because they never thought about it. There was just so much, I need to just make a movie. I need to bring my vision to life, and people will recognize my genius.
Right.
They will recognize my genius.
That's what we all think in the beginning, right? Like we think that our first film is going to bring us all the fame and the fortune, and the doors to Hollywood are going to open up, and then the offers, the deals, and the agents, the managers are just going to, like, you know, carry us up to the top of the mountain. But,
Mountain Hollywood, yes.
Mountain Hollywood. That just doesn't happen. You know?
No, but generally, it's everyone thinks of, you know, my first movie has to be Reservoir Dogs. I did.
Right.
Like my first feature film has to come out guns a-blaring for anyone to take me seriously. And when I finally broke through that, I was like, screw it, I'm just going to go make my first feature, which then which I sold to Hulu, which I made money with, and was able to make it to a successful film. And I'm like, amazing. And that's fun. I'm like, that's I didn't get rich off that movie by any stretch, but it's successful.
But it kept you going, and now you made another movie after that, and you're going to be able to make another movie after that. And it's just like, it's the start of your career. It's like this, like you said, long game approach, you know, where it's not like, you know, put all the eggs in one basket, and if it doesn't deliver, then you're over, you know, which is like, how many first time feature filmmakers do we know? Like 1,000. And how many of those first time feature filmmakers make their second film? Like very few, you know, because
exactly, because they're not smart about almost any of the process,
or it's just, even if they are smart, it just beats them down. Like, you know, the whole process beats them down, and it's really tough to get through. It's emotionally draining. You have a lot of high hopes and expectations, and when they're not met, it's like you failed, you know. And I think, like, you know, the difference between that filmmaker making their second feature and not making their second feature is often their expectations. If they just lowered their expectations to think, oh, like, I don't have to be Sam Raimi, I don't have to be Quentin Tarantino, I can just be Alrik Bursell and have people like my movie, get a few good reviews, and then, you know, put the hustle back up again and make the second feature the same way I made the first one, then I think it's different. But people expect, like, you only have to work hard once. No, you have to work hard for the rest of your life making films. Like, that's just part of the game. You know?
And so many people don't forget that Francis Ford Coppola, obviously a patron saint of the Bay Area, you know,
of course,
and also a patron saint of cinema in general,
and a gentle, kind soul as well. You know,
I've heard,
you know, he's just a really, really great guy. I worked on one of his movies, and he treated all of the crew with respect and dignity, and, you know, took ideas from the PAs up to the producers. Like, no idea was a bad idea. Like, he was open to everybody. It was a really beautiful experience. You know? Yeah,
but people forget that before he made The Godfather, he made Dementia 13. You know, for Roger Corman,
right? Corman,
you know, which was basically a schlock B movie,
right?
You know, that it was his first movie, because that was the first time he did it. He didn't, even back then, there was definitely no mentality of the blockbuster mentality, because blockbusters didn't exist yet. There was no getting rich in Hollywood. That wasn't even a concept when he was coming up. But all these filmmakers had to go through these paths, and everyone just keeps holding on to these lottery ticket winners. Like, and Robert's the worst. I mean, not the worst. His is the most mythical of all of the, you know, the $7,000 feature, El Mariachi. Like,
right.
Yeah.
But, you know, with the thing about Coppola that's good to remember too is that, you know, he had all his success with Godfather and with Apocalypse Now, and then he made One from the Heart, which completely bombed, sunk his studio that he started, and then he had to go to work for another 10 years making studio features in order to pay that off. And, you know, it was like, he no free rides, man. Like, he made Godfather. He had to hit the slog and make the movies he didn't want to make and do that. And, you know,
He made
it's just
Godfather. He made Godfather 2. He made Apocalypse Now. I mean,
Right,
Jesus.
right,
He made The
right.
Conversation. Like, come on.
And
Like,
then he has to go do Dracula and Patch Adams and, you know, all these other movies, you know.
did he didn't direct Patch? Did he direct? No, he did. No, it wasn't
Did
Patch
he?
Adams. No, it was
Wasn't
Jack.
Patch
It was
Adams?
Jack. It was Jack.
Jack.
He directed
Sorry.
Jack. Yes.
Jack.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. He
Very
directed
similar.
Jack.
Sorry.
With Robin Williams.
Sorry, Coppola. Sorry, Francis. My bad.
But Dracula, Dracula is one of my favorite horror
Yeah.
films of all time.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It was, and he loved it so much that he went to produce Frankenstein afterwards, which didn't hit that thing. But Dracula
That level.
Dracula was amazing. It's one of those
Right.
films. Oh, amazing. But I wanted to ask you something, man. In your opinion, what is the greatest threat facing independent filmmakers today?
I think really high expectations, you know, like we talked about, and like being setting yourself up for failure, you know, because you have this idea that you're going to reach such great heights with your first project, whether it be a short or a feature, and that you'll just never be able to, like, that reality will never live up to the expectations. So I think that's one big danger. I think the other danger is, you know, devaluing your own work and letting someone else take it from you and not actually making the money for yourself, which is something that I'm worried about a lot. And I think there's a lot of information and a lot being said about creative distribution and self-distribution.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's a big thing that you talk about a lot, and we've talked about a lot on our podcast as well. And I think that it's not something to be taken lightly. And to be honest, my first reaction to it was like, why does that have to be my job? I'm the creative, you know, I'm the filmmaker. Like, that should be someone else's job.
I am the artist. I am the artist, sir.
Right. Like, why should I have to do the business? And what I've learned over and over in my journey as a filmmaker is that you have to care about the business. If you don't care about the business, you will never get your movie made. If I didn't care about the business, I would not be able to raise the money I've raised for my film that I'm about to shoot, you know, or have a plan to get this movie released when it's done, you know. And I'm really lucky to have, you know, a professional and a veteran in my corner with my producer, Jeffrey Allard, who's produced over 20 films. Like, this film will probably be his 21st or 22nd feature by the time that it comes out. But, you know, like, he's guiding me, which is great. But, like, you know, he's old school model. Like, he's going to go to distributors and he's going to take the best deal that we get offered. But I'm going to have to be the one to say, look, Jeff, like, if we don't get the right offer, like, there is another way. And this self-distribution, finding your audience, finding your niche market to get the movie out to, that's a real good way where you can actually make some return on your investment for your investors, you know? Mm-hmm. And I don't think it should be discounted. Like, I think no matter how big your movie is, that whatever star you have on board, like, I think we should all be looking at creative distribution now as a real way to get our movies made. Like, because, you know, distributors, they're having a tough time right now. It's really hard for them to turn a buck and for them to survive. And you see companies closing down left and right, you know, and I mean, distributor just had the big shutdown recently, or we don't really know what's going on with them. And I think that, like, looking at how you can get a return on your investment for your investors by doing it yourself is something that we just need to be looking at. You know, and I think that getting taken advantage of, that's like it's just a huge danger, you know?
Yeah, it is one of the reasons why I wrote my new book, which is The Rise of the Filmtrepreneur, to teach filmmakers how to be an entrepreneurial filmmakers.
Right.
I truly believe that the future is entrepreneurial filmmaking. It's filmmakers understanding the whole concept of the ecosystem of making money with their movie. If they don't, you know what? It's like in the 80s and the 90s, you really didn't have to do a whole lot or know a whole lot to make money with your movies. Don't get me wrong, there were still obviously levels that you had to meet, but in the 80s, if you just produced a 35 millimeter movie, it was sold. Right. It was just, there's no competition.
There was a market, yeah.
In the 90s, the DVD market basically guaranteed that anything put out would make some sort of money.
Right.
But now it's getting...
Especially horror films.
Oh, God, it was insane. But nowadays... you have to sharpen that tool so much. You've got to be, before it was an axe would do fine. Now it has to be it's a scalpel. You got to
or a bat even, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Blunt instrument would have been fine. But now you've got to be so surgical with the way you do things, and you have to have so much more information because the market is so much more dense, so much more competition that if you don't, so, you know, as your producer as you're telling me your producer is going to go the old school route, a lot of the things that he might have worked for him 5 movies ago don't work now, or
even 2 movies ago.
Like these distributors, to get an MG or a minimum guarantee nowadays,
right?
Man, you really. And if you do get a minimum guarantee, do you think you're going to get $100,000, $200,000, $300,000? Are you going to recoup the entire budget? I mean, it's rare.
You have to have a special movie that has a special reaction at film festivals, and it comes back to film festivals. Like if you win Sundance, then you might get that deal,
And that's a big if, because I worked on films that did win Sundance and didn't get deals because they had no talent attached. So the higher the budget goes, unless it's we're talking now outlier style, blowout success at a big major film festival, then maybe you'll have a bidding war. Maybe A24 will jump in. Maybe Neon will jump in, or Vertical.
Right.
But these guys,
or XYZ even,
or XYZ, or one of these kind of guys that will come in and carry that out. But even then, it's that's a rare situation. So
definitely. It's rare just to get into one of those festivals. So to get into South by Southwest, you have to be an outlier, let alone get the MG deal. It's really tough.
Right, and then and A24 is basically the Sundance of distributors.
Right.
They how many movies do they release a year? 10?
Yeah.
Something
which
like that.
Which is a good amount for a production company or a distributor, but I mean even that is very, very few. You've got to be one of the chosen ones.
Exactly. So Neon is the same way. Vertical. These other XYZ. They don't take out. They're not like Gravitas that pumps out 40 movies a month. You know what I mean? They're not that shotgun approach kind of distributor that just kind of throws up everything against the wall to see what sticks. These guys care about their films. Their curation. It's a curation that they do. Because every time an A24 movie comes out, you're like, well, this is an A24 movie. It's kind of like the olden days of, unfortunately, Miramax. But when Miramax was in its, we don't like to say the M word, but when Miramax was in its heyday, they were that company. Fox Searchlight. These Sony Classics. These are studios that really did it. Nowadays, man, it's just almost impossible to get into those. It's actually tougher to get an A24 deal than it is to get accepted into Sundance.
Oh, is it really? Wow.
Well, but just look at the numbers.
It's just the numbers, right? Yeah.
There's 118 movies get accepted a year to Sundance. 10 get accepted to A24.
Right.
So I'm just
and it's like the Last Black Man's of San Francisco of the world. Sorry to Bother You's, the Moonlights. It's there's special movies that are getting selected. Hereditary, whatever, you could list all their names. Books of Art. It's you got to have some real gold, in order to get there.
Yeah, it's again,
and some connections too.
Oh yeah, it's never underestimate the power of relationships in this business.
Yeah. Guess who directed Booksmart? Olivia Wilde, movie star.
Shocking.
That's not a coincidence, people.
And it was her first movie, by the way. It was her first
feature.
Movie. First feature, and she did a great job, by the way. I enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
I thought it was
I haven't seen it yet. I heard the trailer is awesome.
Yeah, I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was really good. She did a fantastic job. I think she has a really good career ahead of her as a director, and as an actress. Obviously, she's a fantastic actress as well.
Oh yeah.
But it does help that you're Olivia Wilde.
Absolutely.
Olivia Wilde walks. You get more meetings than Alrik or Alex does.
Right, exactly. Just a few more.
Just
a couple more.
Not many, but just a couple more.
Just a few more.
Just a few more.
a few more access to some good actors, to some good crew. Just a little bit better access.
I mean, it's just smidge. It's a smidge, not much, but it's a smidge.
Right.
So let's talk about this 5-year epic that you've been working on called The Alternate. Can you tell us about the film and where we're at with it right now?
So it's based on my life as a videographer and a video producer. So it's about a, kind of down on his luck videographer, Jake, who is having a real tough time, getting his films made and is doing the corporate thing, hates it. One day he discovers a portal inside one of his video clips. He finds this little speck and he magnifies it. He puts some After Effects on it and then expands it. And then it turns out it's a portal to another dimension. And when he goes through the portal, it's another version of his life, the better version of his little crummy basement office. It's like, instead of having a sheet as his projector, it's like a perfect pull down, like automatic projector, and like got the best everything. And so he starts to travel back and forth between these two worlds and starts to see the different version of his family on the other side. So he has a wife in his regular life, but he's got the better version, the sweeter, nicer version of his wife in the other world, and the kid that he never had, the filmmaking career of his dreams. It's perfect. And so he starts to like slowly impersonate his other self, who turns out to be a complete piece of shit, like this douchebag, workaholic, doesn't spend time with his family, doesn't spend time with his wife. And so he starts to really hate his other self and starts to impersonate him and create a relationship with this other version of his family. And then eventually he decides that he deserves this life, and he decides to switch places with his other self and take the good life for him and then give his alternate self the crummy life that he's created for himself.
That's
so awesome. It's kind of a switcheroo sort of thing, like a mind bender, pretty dark comedy, but it's a lot of fun.
That sounds awesome. I mean, who doesn't want to have an alternative life in many ways? I don't. I love my life, but
right.
but let's say, how about if I was the studio director, if I was making the next Batmans or the next Marvel movies or something like that, that would be pretty. It's a nice thing to explore. Right. It's a nice place to kind of explore. You're like actually making a vision board, sir. You're making a vision board
right,
of
exactly.
what you're like. This is what should be right now. So you've actually made an entire movie about your vision of what you would
my
really
vision for my life. Yeah, exactly.
This is fantastic.
What I tell my therapist and when I talk about with my counselors is like, this is what I want my life to be. Well, what I really did was I took myself and then I imagined like the worst version of me, and then the best, hardest working version of me, like exaggerated in both directions, and that's how I wrote the two different versions of Jake. Just sort of like using myself as a loose template for that.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, great. Yeah. Now, where are you? Are you crowdfunding right now?
Yeah, we're doing a crowdfunding campaign on Seed and Spark. You can go check it out at Seed and Spark. Seed and Spark /fund/ the alternate. That's what it is, /the alternate. And, I don't know when this is going to come out, but we're probably like 10 days away or maybe 15 days away from completing right now. Mm-hmm. And, it's been a really great process, a really great adventure. I mean, like you said, I've been working on this movie for 5 years, from writing to developing to pitching. And, all you talked about getting all those rejections and going through that, the whole song and dance. Like I did that like for a long time. I did 20 pitches to different executives in Los Angeles. I went to AFM, did another about 25 pitches there. Got rejected all across the board, a million different types of feedback. I did table reads. I did all these different things. Mm-hmm. And I finally got a producer attached, Jeffrey Allard, who read the script, believed in it, believed in me, gave me a shot. And, basically the last 2 years we've been raising funds and, doing some hardcore development. And like now we're ready to shoot the film in December.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations, man. Congratulations. I know, look, trust me. I feel you. I've been where you are. I've walked a lot of the same roads. We've walked over the same dead bodies, sir. I think on our path. And I do believe that both of us have plenty of shrapnel and plenty of scarring from this business, walking through our filmmaking paths, man. Because it's brutal, man. It is just it's brutal. And I know filmmakers who are listening to this for the first time, it's fantastic. It's everything you ever dreamed about. It's a wonderful, wonderful business. You should do it twice.
Right. I sometimes, like, I'm sure you've gotten the same advice that I've gotten, where you'll talk to a veteran or somebody who's been in the business a long time, somebody you look up to, and you ask them like, what should I do as a young filmmaker? And I've had more than once someone tell me to quit and go into a new business. Have you ever gotten that advice?
Of course.
Yeah. And I feel like it's really debilitating to hear that, from someone you admire especially. And I feel like I never want to give that advice to anybody, because I think if you're passionate about it and you really want to do this and you find joy in the process, you will have success, no matter what.
in one way, shape, or form. But at the end of the day, anytime I see somebody who's really egocentric, which I know is shocking in our business,
Right.
you know, or it's rare. It's like a unicorn, but,
Yeah.
but
Ego? What? I didn't know
ego.
that existed in filmmaking.
What?
Really?
Stop it. But when I see people are egotistic or people who are trying to get into the business, in a good way, and they're just humble about, you know, which is rare. That is a unicorn. I rarely meet humble filmmakers like, right. I know nothing. Please just teach me. I rarely ever hear that. But
and we all struggle with that, right?
Oh, I mean, I made a whole movie called last movie is called On the Corner of Ego and Desire. I mean, it's a perfect example of what we had to do. But I always say to myself, and sometimes I'll say it to them to their face. I'm like, don't worry, man. The film business will weed everybody out that needs to be weeded out. We'll teach the lessons that need to be taught.
Right.
And it might not happen now. It might happen in 10 years. It might not be on like, I always say that there's filmmaking karma, and that comes around, you know, Brett Ratner got it. Brian Singer got it. You know, there's a lot of guys that came out. You know, a lot of those guys I'd heard about for years. I was here. I mean, I was outside. I heard about it, and I was outside of the business.
Right.
Living in Florida, and I heard these stories.
Wow.
So, as much success as they might have had, you know, it does come around. So, karma is, as they say, a bitch.
Absolutely.
And filmmaking karma is, I think, even a different flavor of bitch.
Right. That's why, you know, I've had so many people help me along the way, getting to where I am. I did a Kickstarter for my first short film, which was successful. I've had lots of people come out and work, you know, for very little money, low wages, or even for free here and there. And I always just try to give back. So that's like kind of, you know, with the podcast, that's one way that I get back. And then also just working on other people's shorts whenever I can, or their features, and just, you know, just being involved as much as I can in filmmaking, you know, not just for my films, but for anyone's films, like anyone who I believe in, and like, you know, who asks nicely. You know, come out and do what I can. But just to go back to the crowdfunding a little bit, we put a lot of effort into getting this page together. You know, we did a lot of videos, and there's a lot of videos that have been released already along the campaign. So by this time, our teaser trailer has probably been released, which is a 2-minute you know, cinematic trailer for the film. It's like a one scene basically, and like half another scene mixed together. There's also a documentary series that we're doing on the making of the film that you can watch. So, you know, as we get, you know, higher and higher in our goals and hit more milestones, we're going to be releasing more interviews with the cast and the crew, talking about like why they decided to work on my film when they have so many different film options to work on. They're turning things down because they just don't have the time. Like, why do they believe in me and give me a shot with the alternate, you know? And I'm also going to do a video series where I asked everybody who I've interviewed what advice they had for me as a director. And some of these people have worked on 20 movies, 10 movies, you know, tons of different directors over their careers. And so it was really interesting to hear what everyone's advice was. So that's going to be one of the last milestones that we release when we get close to our goal of $25,000.
Nice.
You know, around 21, we're going to release that video. So, you know, if you like the sound of the film and you want to support, you know, elevated indie sci-fi, you should go check it out. We got a lot of awesome perks. You know, we're not doing physical perks, we're doing digital perks. So like things that I can get involved with your filmmaking career if you want me to, like, you know, consulting on scripts, on shorts and features, also just thank yous. And we're doing this really fun thing that people have really liked a lot, where we'll take a photo from you from, you know, one that you give us or anywhere from Facebook, and we'll put you in the portal so you can be a part of the film. And if you don't like the portal, you know, and you have another favorite sci-fi film, like, you know, I see you got Yoda back there, you know, or whatever, we could put you in your favorite sci-fi movie. We put people in the Alien, we put people in Terminator, we put people in, so somebody has to be put in Passengers of all things. the film with Chris from Guardians of the Galaxy, and
Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt and
Jake Gyllenhaal, wasn't it?
Jennifer Lawrence.
Jennifer Lawrence, that's right. Oh, that one, that
right.
sci-fi movie. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So, if you think the world is cool, but you'd rather be put into something else, we got you covered there too.
That's awesome.
But it's just been a really fun experience, and I got actually to reconnect with a lot of people I worked with years ago, or old friends and family, and so it's been a lot of fun to do this crowdfunding campaign. And come join us, and if you can contribute, great. If you can't, just follow us on Seed to Spark. It's super helpful, or give us a shout out on social media. That's great too. So yeah, I hope you guys check it out, and hope you guys like the film. And I openly accept feedback. So if you guys want to tell me what you think of my teaser trailer, and if you liked it or hated it or whatever, what you would do differently, you can reach out to me and write me there too, and I'll keep that in my back pocket for the future. Because
awesome.
I'm always trying to grow. It's like it's a collaborative, communicative thing. It's not like I always say. It's not like the auteur on top of the mountain, directing this movie with his own singular vision. It's like a shared vision. It's a collaborative effort, filmmaking,
So I want to tell you how far up my own ass I was when I was a film student.
Okay.
I mean, I was so far up my own ass, I can't even tell you.
Right.
I mean,
as we all were. Right?
I know, but I'm like 25, 30 Criterion laser discs far up my ass.
Laser discs.
Yeah, baby. Laser
Oh,
discs.
man,
Okay, that's how far up my ass I was.
That's
the name of my first production company, which was never a real production company. It was just a logo that I put up front.
What was the name?
Prepare yourself.
I'm ready.
Auteur Pictures.
Auteur Pictures.
Auteur Pictures.
Wow.
I'm not kidding.
Oh my goodness.
It is at the beginning. I'm thinking one day. Listen, everyone listening right now. If you guys want me to release my first 2 short films,
you have to.
That were, actually one of them has an actor who's actually a working actor now.
Oh really?
Yeah,
wow.
he was a college kid in Orlando, and I just saw him on Bosch. That Amazon show, he's been in movies with James Franco. He's like a working actor.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so I could put that one's called Playing the Field, and then another one, which is it is an award-winning film, which is Thoughts of a Prospective Groom, and that is just so full of pretension. I can't. Oh my God! Like every shot.
They're not released. We can't.
They've never been seen. They've never been released. I have them.
Gosh.
I have them. I've never
released them, man.
So if I get enough people that message me on Facebook, Twitter, or email me and say, "Alex, release these shorts," I will put them on YouTube. I'll put them on. I'll put them for free on YouTube. Yeah. I'll also put them on IFH TV. But it has the logo. I had this circa 1996 3D.
Oh my gosh.
3D embossed logo on stone, like on this stone. Marble, like on a marble.
Auteur.
And then you see the light go by, so the shadow shifts. It's so bad. Oh my god.
Classic. I can't wait. I officially vote for this to happen. I want to see these films.
Shot on beta. Shot on beta.
Oh, on beta.
Beta SP. It was shot on Beta SP.
Wow.
It was professional. It was a professional, a news camera. It was basically news cameras.
A news camera, right. Yeah, I released some of my early stuff from high school. I think it's on YouTube. You can see a short film I did, very first short film about you think it's a football player, but it actually turns out to be something else altogether. And I star in it, as well as I wrote and directed it with my friend.
I wasn't that far up my own ass, sir. Not then.
We just basically we were the theater nerds. We didn't have anybody to put in our movies at first, so we just put ourselves in them. Of course. And then by my senior year, I was like, never acting again. I'm only working with professional actors, like the people who are starring in West Side Story and my school play. That's the lowest I'll go. Only that,
Wow.
So I was right there with you, man. Don't worry.
But did you have a company called Auteur Pictures?
I did not. I could not claim that I had a company called Auteur Pictures. I think what we had, so I had 2 friends. They were both Jewish, so it was 2 Jews and a goy. That was the production company that me
That's
and my friends
actually
had in
much.
high school.
That's actually much cooler. That's a much
Yeah.
cooler
Yeah,
situation
yeah,
than what
yeah.
I had,
I
sir.
mean, maybe offensive, I'm not sure, but I was the goy, so whatever. I don't know. I didn't make up the name. But
All right,
yeah.
so let me ask you. So let me ask you a few questions. I ask all of my guests, sir.
Sure, please.
What advice would you give a filmmaker trying to break into the business today, other than calling their film company Auteur Pictures?
Okay, well, yes. Once you name it Auteur Pictures, you get the first step done. I would say, you know, like make your films. Tell your stories. Don't let anything get in your way of doing it. Write small and just get out and make it. And if I think if you've never made a movie before, take your iPhone, take whatever camera you have, and go make it. And then once you've done that, get the best people around you, make your next one, and make your next one, and just keep on making stuff. And don't. I think like for a long time, it took me, gosh, 4 or 5 years to make my first professional short film because I was like so much in my own head. Like I had worked on movies, I'd worked with really well-known people and like, on bigger sets. And I was like, I'm only going to make it if it's the Sundance worthy. It's going to like really get to this big film festival thing. And then it took me years to just realize like, no, I have to make the story that's true to me. And that's the story that I'll make. And when I finally got that, I threw away 10 short film scripts and just made Strange Thing. But it took me forever, from like 22 to 27, know. And I just wish I had gotten started earlier, and like gotten out of my own way.
Oh, that's the biggest thing, man. You get in your own way. It took me 20 years before I made my first feature.
Wow, geez.
Yeah. So because
I'm still going to my first feature, still going.
Soon. Now, what is the lesson that took you the longest to learn, whether in the film business or in life?
The longest to learn, I think that there's still lessons I haven't learned yet that I'm going to learn soon, hopefully. So it's hard to say the longest, but one big lesson I learned early on when I was a production assistant was to relax and just like calm down. Like it's going to be okay. Like I got so worked up working on the second feature that I worked on that I was like, I just overstressed myself out. I was running around acting like a maniac as a PA, and my production supervisor benched me. She benched me for like 3 hours. She's like, you have to get off set. You're being destructive more than you're being constructive. Just go have a beer, eat some food, and then come back when you're ready.
So you were put in timeout? You were put in timeout?
I was put on timeout. And me and that production supervisor, we didn't get along very well. I really have a lot of respect for her, but that was one thing I learned from her that was like, just slow your roll, relax. It's going to be fine. Like there's disasters. There's only so much that can be done, but keep your shit together, And then I remember the location manager was a really, really veteran location manager on that movie. And I ended up working under him a lot in the second half of the shoot. And that was one thing, like he never got upset. They would like switch locations. Like we would have a location prepped, ready to go. And then we would get a call from the production like, no, we're not going to this location. We got to go to a completely different location. We were going to be there tomorrow instead. And no matter how disastrous, he never lost his shit. He was always calm. And so after I got benched and got put in timeout, and then I got to look at that guy and watch him, I was like, yeah, that's the way to be. And I've taken that into every production I've worked on since, whether it be a production assistant, camera, producer, director. I just keep my calm because, what is getting stressed out going to do? It's just going to cause more problems,
Stillness is the way, sir. Stillness is the way. Yeah. You have to become zen on set. If not,
you have to.
It will destroy you. It will destroy you.
It will.
Now,
and the production.
And not to mention the production. Now, what is the biggest fear you've had to overcome to make the film that you're about to do?
The biggest fear I had to overcome. Wow. I think, that's a hard one to answer. I think one of the things that was stopping me for a long time was the idea of feeling that I'm not ready, and that I need more things in order to make my film, whether it be more funds raised or like more well-known actors attached or whatever. And then I think when I actually got my experienced producer on board, one of the things I've learned from working with him is, you need to take charge of the situation as the director, or you're going to be producing your first feature almost certainly. Even if you're working with an experienced producer, you still have to be a producer. So I think it was hard to learn that. I just had to do it, and I just had to get the ball rolling. I had to set the dates and just do it, because they're going to change, things are going to flux, but putting it out there and saying, hey, I'm making this film this year in December. First it was October, now it's December. I think that was really hard, to just decide that it's up to me and that I have to take ownership and I have to do it, and no one's going to do it for me. I have to do it,
Awesome. Now, the toughest question of all, 3 of your favorite films of all time. 3 of your favorite films of all time.
Okay. Alien.
Nice.
Terminator.
Nice.
Goodfellas.
Now, ooh, that's a heck of a mix. Now, how about if you did a smash of all 3 of those films?
That'd be a great movie.
I would watch that movie.
There's so many other films I left off. Like
of course. I mean, there's thousands of them, but those are 3. Yeah, those are 3 that just come to your mind now.
Right. Yeah. Gosh, there's one from the 50s that I really, really like a lot. I can't remember the name of right now. They remade it into Sorcerer. That's the remake.
Yeah.
What's the original called? Wages of Fear.
Okay.
So
I remember that movie. Yeah.
It's a French film. They shot it in English, French, and Spanish, I believe. There are 3 different languages going, because it was at least people from all different parts of the world that were in this one camp together. But yeah, Wages of Fear is one of my favorites. Double Indemnity. I'm gonna go pick up the classics now. Those are great. And then of course The Thing, a huge inspiration. But I guess
obviously The Room, because it was shot in the Bay Area.
Oh right, of course, The Room, big time. That movie scarred me. When I watched that, I got to the sex scene. And I had nightmares.
No,
I had nightmares.
No, that's
I was watching it with a bunch of friends.
You have to watch it with a bunch of friends. You cannot watch that movie alone.
It was, oh man. But I don't think I ever finished it, to be honest. I think I couldn't do it.
I've seen that movie multiple times. It's still one of my favorite. It's my favorite worst movie of all time. It's without question. But you have to watch it with Filmmakers. You have to watch it. Like, I saw it while I was shooting on the corner of Ego and Desire at Sundance, in the middle of production. At night when we were all hanging out, I'm like, we've got to watch The Room. And nobody, I was the only one in the entire room who had seen it. And then we had to watch The Room, and it was just, everyone was like, what is that? Is that stock footage from San Francisco? What's going on? What's going on?
Was that the same year that Disaster Artist came out? Or was that?
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was that year. It was 2018. So it was on everyone's mind. Right, and it's like, is he humping her belly button? What is going on? Why is this man naked?
With his bare butt. Oh man.
Oh my God. He's like an alien that came in and put a meat suit on himself. And the way he speaks is the way an alien would think that a human being speaks or has sex.
Right.
It is
exactly.
If whoever's listening right now on this show, if you've not seen The Room, please go watch it, but you cannot, I repeat, watch it alone. You have to watch it with a friend, preferably
especially
filmmakers. If you can watch it with a group of filmmakers, even better. Do not watch it alone, because it will not be the same experience. Because I saw the making of the worst movie ever made documentary about Troll 2, which is a great documentary. It's a fantastic documentary about the worst movie ever made.
Yeah, I think I've seen that. I think I saw that
good. It was so good. But then I went to go see Troll 2. Troll 2 freaking scarred me. Like, I watched Troll 2,
really?
like, I feel a little bit of myself die inside when I watch that movie. It was just, there's something just purely evil about the massacring of the cinema. Watching that film, man. Like, even The Room is much better. It's a much The Room is much more fun.
Wow.
The Room is so much more fun than Troll 2, in my personal humble opinion. Because the thing that makes both of these good, and then we'll stop the show, because if not, we'll talk forever. But the thing I love that makes both those movies good, but The Room better is that Troll 2 was made by a film director who was taking it completely seriously. Like that wasn't a spoof. That was this Italian director thinking that I'm making good cinema. That's what makes it great. But The Room takes that to a completely new level, because the producer, the writer, the director, and the actor are all the same dude.
Right.
and having it all in this wonderful thing and all the things behind the scenes. He had to shoot it on digital and on film at the same time. He's independently wealthy, and like that whole mystery of like, this movie cost $5 million. Like, what is going on? It's just so good. It's just so good. Just so good.
Crazy.
I'm sorry. Crazy. Now, where can people find you and more about your movie? And then, of course, where they can hear your show.
Yeah. So first off, check out Seed and Spark /fund / The Alternate. That's where everyone should go. Check out the crowdfunding for The Alternate. I'd love your support. Whatever you guys can do over there would be great. You can find my website at www.alrikbursell.com. I used to have it be a production company, but I took the Just Shoot It guys' advice and went with the name. I feel like that's a classy move. And then
classy with a capital K, sir. Go ahead.
With a capital K, exactly. And then you can find the podcast at makingmoviesishard.com. And we release episodes every Monday on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, all those good places.
Awesome.
And then I'm on Twitter at AlrikB. Instagram at AlrikB, but you really should just go see The Alternate at The Alternate Film on Twitter, Alternate Film on Instagram and on Facebook, and on Twitter it's Alternate Film 1 on Twitter. So really ignore me, ignore my podcast, just go check out all things The Alternate. That's where you should all head. And if you like what you see, you can help us make this movie that they've been working on forever, and that's gonna kick ass when it's done.
And I will put links to all of this in the show notes, obviously.
Oh, please.
Alrik, man, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. You guys are welcome back anytime. I know Liz is going to come back on because awesome. I need to have Liz back on because I love Liz. She's
Liz
awesome.
Is the best. I'm so lucky to have her. She's great.
You are, sir. You are very lucky to have her as your co-host.
I know.
She's fantastic.
The podcast likes doubled when she joined. And that's not an exaggeration. They literally doubled when we got Liz Manischel. So thank you, Liz. And I feel like if you haven't heard my show, like all my listeners are probably listening to your show, and I feel like they're such companion pieces because it's like such different opinions on filmmaking, different types of guests, different type of style, and I think everybody who watches my show should listen, or listens to my show should listen to your show, and I hope the people who listen to this show will dig our show too.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic show. I've been on twice, and I probably will batter
You'll be back.
Alrik and Liz again to be on the show when I'm talking about something new that I'm selling or promoting or
I feel like every time I have you on, we only scratch the surface, and I learned more about you this time in this conversation. And there are so many things that we can discuss, and I think you have a very interesting perspective that can be lend to so many different topics. So we'll be doing things together for sure.
Absolutely, brother. All right, man. Thanks again for being on the show, brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.